Have you ever stopped to wonder why, despite all the self-help books, motivational quotes, and endless advice on loving yourself, it still feels so elusive? Why does it feel like we're constantly chasing something that should already be within us? Let me tell you a story. Imagine waking up one morning, looking in the mirror, and feeling an overwhelming sense of dissatisfaction, not because of how you look, but because of who you are. You think, if only I were smarter, funnier, more confident, or more successful, then I could finally accept myself. But what if the problem isn't about fixing anything at all? What if the real journey begins with understanding who you truly are? Before we begin, tell me, where are you listening from, and what time is it there? This brings us to Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers in psychology. Jung didn't just study the mind, he delved into the depths of the human soul. His work wasn't about quick fixes or surface-level solutions. Instead, he encouraged people to confront their inner worlds, even when it felt uncomfortable. He believed that true self-love starts not with external validation, but with a deep exploration of your own psyche. So today, we're going to explore what it means to truly love yourself through the lens of Carl Jung's teachings. Let's start with a simple, yet powerful idea, the shadow. Have you ever noticed how some traits in others irritate you to no end, while similar traits in yourself remain hidden or unacknowledged? For example, maybe you can't stand someone who's overly critical, but deep down, you realize you often judge yourself harshly too. This is what Jung called the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we deny, suppress, or reject. These aren't necessarily bad qualities, but they're aspects of our personality that we've deemed unacceptable, either consciously or unconsciously. Now, here's where things get interesting. The shadow isn't something we can ignore forever. It has a way of creeping back into our lives, manifesting in unexpected ways. Take Sarah, for instance, a close friend of mine. She always prided herself on being kind and patient, but she struggled with anger management issues. Whenever she got upset, she would lash out at her partner without realizing why. It wasn't until she started reflecting on her behavior that she uncovered the root cause, a suppressed fear of being vulnerable. By denying this part of herself, she was actually amplifying its impact on her relationships. Jung believed that embracing the shadow is essential for personal growth. When we acknowledge these hidden aspects of ourselves, we begin to integrate them into our conscious awareness. This process, which he referred to as individuation, allows us to become whole. It's not about erasing the shadow or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about accepting it as part of who you are. And once you do, you'll find that those irritating behaviors in others lose their power over you. Why? Because you've already faced them within yourself. But how do we begin this journey of self-discovery? One practical step is journaling. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can help you identify patterns in your behavior. Ask yourself questions like, what emotions am I avoiding? Or when do I feel most insecure? Over time, these reflections will reveal insights about your shadow. Another technique is active imagination, a method developed by Jung himself. This involves engaging in a dialogue with different parts of your psyche, almost as if you're having a conversation with characters inside your mind. By doing so, you give voice to the aspects of yourself that have long been silenced. Let's pause for a moment and consider another key concept from Jung, the persona. Think of the persona as the mask you wear in public, the version of yourself that you present to the world. We all have personas, and there's nothing inherently wrong with them. After all, they help us navigate social situations and connect with others. However, problems arise when we become overly identified with our personas, mistaking them for our true selves. Take Mark, a corporate executive I once worked with. On the surface, he seemed confident and successful, always dressed impeccably and commanding respect in meetings. But beneath that polished exterior, he felt empty and disconnected. He realized that his persona had taken over, leaving little room for authenticity. It wasn't until he began questioning who he really was outside of his professional role that he started to reconnect with his genuine passions and desires. Jung emphasized the importance of distinguishing between the persona and the true self. He argued that true self-love requires stripping away the layers of pretense to uncover the essence of who you are. This doesn't mean rejecting your persona entirely. It means recognizing it for what is, a tool, not your identity. Once you make this distinction, you'll experience a newfound sense of freedom. You won't feel the need to constantly perform or seek approval from others, because you'll know that your worth comes from within. So far, we've talked about the shadow and the persona, two crucial elements in Jung's framework for understanding the self. But there's one more piece of the puzzle that deserves attention: the anima and animus. These terms refer to the feminine and masculine aspects of our psyche, regardless of gender. According to Jung, everyone possesses both qualities, and achieving balance between them is vital for psychological health. Consider Lisa, a talented artist who struggled with assertiveness. She often found herself putting others' needs before her own, fearing conflict or rejection. Through therapy, she discovered that her animus, the assertive, logical side of her personality, had been underdeveloped. By nurturing this aspect of herself, she learned to set boundaries and advocate for her creative vision. Similarly, men who neglect their anima may struggle with emotional intimacy or vulnerability. Balancing these energies within ourselves fosters harmony and wholeness. At this point, you might be wondering, how does all of this lead to self-love? Great question. Loving yourself isn't about perfection or eliminating flaws. It's about embracing the complexity of who you are. It's about acknowledging your shadow, letting go of the need to conform to societal expectations, and integrating both your feminine and masculine energies. It's a lifelong process, but each step brings you closer to authenticity. To illustrate this further, let's revisit Sarah, whose journey we touched on earlier. After years of working on herself, she came to a surprising realization: the anger she had tried so hard to suppress was actually a source of strength. When channeled constructively, it fueled her passion for justice and advocacy. By accepting this part of herself, she transformed what once felt like a weakness into a powerful asset. That's the magic of Jungian psychology. It teaches us to see beyond the surface and recognize the potential in every aspect of our being. Now let's shift gears slightly and talk about the role of dreams in self-discovery. Jung placed immense value on dreams, viewing them as messages from the unconscious mind. He believed that dreams offer clues about unresolved conflicts, repressed emotions, and untapped potential. If you've ever woken up from a vivid dream and wondered what it meant, you're not alone. Dreams are like puzzles waiting to be solved, and deciphering them can provide profound insights into your inner world. For example, imagine dreaming about standing at the edge of a cliff, hesitating to jump. At first glance, this might seem frightening or confusing. But upon reflection, you might interpret it as a metaphor for taking risks or stepping out of your comfort zone. Perhaps you're facing a major decision in your life, and your unconscious is urging you to trust yourself. By paying attention to such symbols, you open the door to deeper self-awareness. Of course, interpreting dreams isn't always straightforward. It requires patience, curiosity, and a willingness to sit with ambiguity. Jung encouraged people to approach their dreams with an open mind, treating them as allies rather than adversaries. Over time, you'll develop a unique relationship with your unconscious, learning to listen to its whispers and heed its warnings. As we continue exploring Jung's ideas, it's important to remember that self-love isn't a destination, it's a practice. It's something you cultivate day by day, moment by moment. Sometimes it's messy and uncomfortable. Other times it's exhilarating and transformative. But through it all, you're building a stronger connection with yourself, one that transcends superficial notions of happiness or success. Let's delve deeper into the idea of understanding yourself rather than changing yourself. This shift in mindset is profound because it challenges the very foundation of how most people approach personal growth. Society often tells us that we need to improve, optimize, and refine ourselves constantly. But what if the real transformation happens not through fixing perceived flaws, but by embracing who you already are? Take David, a software engineer I met during a workshop on self-awareness. David had always felt inadequate compared to his colleagues. He believed he wasn't smart enough or innovative enough to succeed in his field. No matter how many certifications he earned or projects he completed, the nagging voice in his head persisted: "You're just not good enough." It wasn't until he started exploring this belief system that he realized it stemmed from childhood experiences. Growing up, he was often compared to his older sister, who excelled academically. Over time, he internalized the idea that he would never measure up. Through Jungian analysis, David began to see that his feelings of inadequacy were projections, not truths about himself, but reflections of external expectations imposed upon him. By separating his authentic self from these conditioned beliefs, he started to reclaim his sense of worth. Instead of striving for perfection, he focused on aligning his actions with his values. Slowly, the pressure to prove himself diminished, replaced by a quiet confidence that came from within. This brings us to another cornerstone of Jung's philosophy: individuation. Individuation is the process of becoming your true self, the person you were meant to be, free from societal conditioning and artificial constraints. It's not about rejecting the world around you, it's about finding your unique place within it. Jung described individuation as a lifelong journey, one that requires courage, curiosity, and resilience. Along the way, you'll encounter obstacles, doubts, and moments of profound clarity. Each experience contributes to your evolution, shaping you into a more integrated and authentic individual. One of the most beautiful aspects of individuation is that it allows you to honor your contradictions. Human beings are inherently paradoxical. We can be both strong and vulnerable, logical and emotional, ambitious and content. Rather than trying to resolve these contradictions, Jung encouraged people to embrace them. For instance, consider Maria, a high-powered attorney who also loved painting. At first glance, these two passions seemed incompatible. One required precision and logic, while the other demanded creativity and intuition. Yet, as Maria explored her dual interests, she discovered that they complemented each other beautifully. Her legal work sharpened her analytical skills, which enhanced her ability to plan intricate compositions in her art. Meanwhile, painting provided an outlet for self-expression, balancing the rigidity of her professional life. By integrating seemingly opposing aspects of herself, Maria achieved a greater sense of harmony. She no longer felt torn between her career and her passion. Instead, she saw them as interconnected parts of her identity. This is the essence of individuation, recognizing that wholeness doesn't mean uniformity. You don't have to choose one side of yourself over another. Instead, you can celebrate the complexity of your being. Now, let's talk about synchronicity, a term coined by Jung to describe meaningful coincidences that defy logical explanation. Synchronicities often occur when we're aligned with our true selves, serving as reminders that we're on the right path. Have you ever experienced a moment where everything seemed to fall into place effortlessly? Perhaps you were thinking about reconnecting with an old friend, only to bump into them unexpectedly at a coffee shop. Or maybe you stumbled upon a book that answered a question you'd been pondering for weeks. These moments feel magical because they transcend ordinary cause and effect reasoning. Jung believed that synchronicities arise when the conscious and unconscious minds are in harmony. They act as guideposts, nudging us toward decisions or actions that resonate with our deepest truths. For example, Anna, a writer struggling with creative block, once shared a story with me that perfectly illustrates this concept. She had spent months feeling stuck, unable to finish her novel. One day, while browsing a bookstore, she randomly picked up a memoir written by someone she'd never heard of. As she read, she realized that the author's struggles mirrored her own. The book didn't provide direct solutions, but it reignited her motivation and gave her fresh perspective. That serendipitous discovery became a turning point in her writing journey. Synchronicities remind us that we're part of something larger than ourselves, a web of interconnected energies that influence and shape our lives. When we pay attention to these signs, we open ourselves to possibilities we might otherwise overlook. However, cultivating awareness of synchronicities requires mindfulness. We must learn to listen to the subtle whispers of the universe, trusting that they hold valuable insights. Another fascinating aspect of Jung's work is his exploration of archetypes, universal symbols and patterns that reside in the collective unconscious. Archetypes manifest in various forms, such as the hero, the mother, the trickster, and the sage. While they appear across cultures and time periods, their meanings evolve based on individual experiences. Understanding the archetypes that influence your life can help you navigate challenges and uncover hidden strengths. For instance, think about the archetype of the hero. In mythology, the hero embarks on a quest, facing trials and tribulations before emerging victorious. On a personal level, this archetype represents the courage to confront fears and pursue goals despite uncertainty. If you identify with the hero archetype, you might find fulfillment in overcoming obstacles and pushing boundaries. Conversely, if the mother archetype resonates with you, you may derive joy from nurturing others and creating safe spaces for growth. Recognizing your dominant archetypes can offer valuable clues about your purpose and motivations. However, it's important to remember that archetypes aren't fixed. They ebb and flow depending on your circumstances. Embracing this fluidity allows you to adapt and grow, drawing strength from different archetypes as needed. At this point, you might be wondering how all these concepts tie together in the pursuit of self-love. Here's the key takeaway. Loving yourself isn't about achieving some idealized version of perfection. It's about embracing the full spectrum of your humanity, the light and the dark, the rational and the irrational, the known and the unknown. When you stop fighting against yourself and start working with yourself, you unlock a reservoir of inner peace and empowerment. Let's take a moment to sit with that image of standing in front of the mirror. It's a simple act, yet it carries profound implications. When you look at yourself, do you see someone who is enough just as they are? Or do you see a list of shortcomings, a series of tasks to complete before you can finally give yourself permission to feel whole? This question cuts to the heart of what Carl Jung called the ego-self axis. The ego represents the conscious part of your mind, the part that plans, analyzes, and judges, while the self embodies the totality of your being, including both conscious and unconscious elements. True self-love occurs when the ego aligns with the self, creating harmony between who you think you are and who you truly are. To illustrate this concept, let me share the story of Elena, a woman I once encountered during a retreat focused on Jungian psychology. Elena was a perfectionist by nature, always striving to meet impossibly high standards. Her career as a graphic designer demanded precision and creativity, but her relentless pursuit of excellence left her feeling perpetually drained. She often criticized herself for not being productive enough or innovative enough, even though her colleagues praised her work. Over time, this inner conflict began to take a toll on her mental health. During the retreat, Elena participated in a guided visualization exercise designed to help participants connect with their inner selves. As she closed her eyes and followed the facilitator's instructions, she imagined herself walking through a dense forest. Eventually, she arrived at a clearing where a wise elder awaited her. To her surprise, the elder didn't offer advice or critique. Instead, he simply smiled and said, "You've done enough." Those 4 words struck a chord deep within Elena. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that her efforts were sufficient, that she didn't need to prove her worth through external achievements. This experience marked a turning point for Elena. She began to soften her expectations, replacing self-criticism with self-compassion. Instead of viewing rest as laziness, she started seeing it as an essential part of her creative process. By nurturing her relationship with her inner self, she discovered a wellspring of inspiration that had been buried beneath layers of stress and doubt. This is the power of aligning the ego with the self. It frees you from the tyranny of endless striving and invites you to embrace the present moment. Now let's explore another critical aspect of Jung's teachings, the role of suffering in personal growth. Jung believed that suffering is not merely an obstacle to overcome, but a catalyst for transformation. He famously said, "There's no coming to consciousness without pain." While this statement may sound daunting, it holds a liberating truth. Our struggles contain the seeds of our greatest breakthroughs. Consider Alex, a musician who faced a devastating setback early in his career. After years of hard work, he finally landed a record deal, only to have it fall through due to unforeseen circumstances. Heartbroken and disillusioned, Alex questioned whether he should continue pursuing music at all. During this dark period, he turned to therapy, where he began exploring the emotions underlying his despair. Through this process, he realized that his attachment to success stemmed from a deeper fear of failure, a fear rooted in childhood experiences of being compared to his siblings. As Alex confronted these fears, he began to redefine his relationship with music. Rather than viewing it as a means to achieve fame or validation, he saw it as a form of self-expression and healing. This shift in perspective reignited his passion, leading him to create some of his most authentic and impactful work. His story reminds us that suffering, while painful, can serve as a gateway to deeper understanding and self-acceptance. Jung also emphasized the importance of rituals in fostering psychological growth. Rituals provide structure and meaning, helping us navigate life's transitions and challenges. Whether it's lighting a candle to mark the start of a new chapter, journaling to process difficult emotions, or meditating to reconnect with your inner self, rituals anchor us in the present moment and create space for reflection. For example, Rachel, a teacher navigating a major life transition, found solace in creating a daily ritual of gratitude. Each evening, she would write down 3 things she appreciated about herself, no matter how small. At first, this practice felt awkward and forced, but over time, it became a source of comfort and strength. By focusing on her positive qualities, Rachel gradually shifted her mindset from self-doubt to self-appreciation. This simple ritual helped her build resilience during a challenging period, reminding her of her inherent worth. Rituals don't have to be elaborate or time-consuming. What matters is their intentionality, the way they invite us to pause, reflect, and honor our experiences. In doing so, they reinforce our connection to ourselves and the world around us. As we near the end of this segment, let's return to the central theme of this discussion: how to truly love yourself. Loving yourself isn't a destination. It's a dynamic process that unfolds over time. It requires patience, courage, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. But the rewards are immeasurable. When you learn to accept yourself fully, shadow, persona, anima, animus, and all, you step into a state of wholeness that transcends fleeting moments of happiness or success. Imagine carrying this sense of wholeness into every area of your life. How might it transform your relationships, your career, your dreams and aspirations? When you stop seeking validation from others and start trusting your inner compass, you unlock a level of freedom and authenticity that changes everything. As we bring this journey to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've explored together. Loving yourself isn't about achieving some unattainable ideal. It's not about silencing your doubts or erasing your flaws. Instead, it's about embracing the totality of who you are, the light and the dark, the strengths and the vulnerabilities, the known and the mysterious. Carl Jung reminds us that the path to self-love is not a straight line but a spiral, where we revisit old wounds and patterns with newfound wisdom and compassion. Think back to the stories we've shared: Sarah learning to channel her anger into strength, David reclaiming his sense of worth, Elena discovering that she had done enough, Alex transforming his suffering into art, and Rachel finding resilience through gratitude. Each of these individuals faced challenges that could have left them feeling broken. Yet by turning inward and confronting their inner worlds, they uncovered hidden reservoirs of power and possibility. Their journeys remind us that self-love is not passive. It's an active, courageous choice to show up for yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." These words carry a profound truth. The parts of ourselves we deny or ignore don't disappear. They shape our lives in ways we may not fully understand. By shining a light on our shadows, integrating our personas, balancing our anima and animus, and honoring our archetypes, we reclaim agency over our lives. We stop being victims of circumstances and start becoming co-creators of our destinies. So, how do you move forward from here? Start small. Begin by noticing the moments when you judge yourself harshly or compare yourself to others. Ask yourself, what story am I telling about who I am? Is it true, or is it shaped by fears and expectations? Then gently challenge those narratives. Replace self-criticism with curiosity. Treat yourself as you would a dear friend, with kindness, patience, and understanding. Remember, too, that self-love is not a solitary endeavor. It's deeply intertwined with how we relate to others and the world around us. When you love yourself, you create space for healthier relationships, more meaningful connections, and a greater sense of purpose. You become a beacon of authenticity, inspiring those around you to embark on their own journeys of self-discovery. As we part ways today, I want to leave you with one final thought. You are already whole. Despite the struggles, the doubts, and the imperfections, there is nothing missing within you. Your task is not to become someone else, but to uncover the brilliance that has been there all along. Trust in your ability to navigate the complexities of your inner world. Trust in the process of individuation, however messy or nonlinear it may be. And most importantly, trust that you are worthy of love, not because of what you achieve, but simply because you exist. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of how to truly love yourself through the lens of Carl Jung's teachings. I hope these insights resonate with you and inspire you to embark on your own journey of self-discovery. Remember, the path to loving yourself begins with a single step, and that step starts right now, in this moment with you. Take care, and until next time, keep listening to the whispers of your soul. After all, it knows the way home better than anyone else ever could.